Hi, I'm Julia, and welcome back to English Without Limit. I'm really glad you're here today because we're going to talk about something that might sound simple, but it's incredibly powerful for your English fluency. It's a technique I've seen work for countless learners, and it's something you can start using immediately. No teacher required, no schedule, no pressure. It's called self-talk. Now I know, talking to yourself in English might sound a little odd at first, but stay with me, because self-talk is one of the most underrated habits that can completely change the way you speak English. Let's take a step back. Have you ever caught yourself thinking in English? Maybe a word just popped into your head, or you whispered a sentence while walking or brushing your teeth. That moment, that's self-talk. And here's the beautiful part. It works. It really works. Not because it's trendy, but because it's practical. You don't need anyone else to practice with. You don't need to wait for a reply or worry about making mistakes. It's just you, your voice, and your thoughts. When you practice this way, there's no fear, no judgment, just freedom. It becomes your private classroom, a space where you can experiment, speak freely, and build confidence, one sentence at a time. Let me ask you something. What if speaking English became as natural as brushing your teeth? What if it became something you just did, without planning, without hesitation? That's what happens when you build a self-talk habit. You begin to describe your world in English, your plans, your routine, your emotions, and the more you do that, the more automatic it becomes. Now you might be thinking, okay, Julia, but where do I start? You start simple, look around, say what you see, say what you're doing. I'm opening the window. I'm going to make coffee. I need to send an email. It's not fancy, but it works. These are the real-life sentences your brain actually needs to get fluent. And here's the bonus. You're also training your pronunciation, rhythm, and speaking speed. Even if it feels awkward at first, you're building muscle memory. You're teaching your mouth and your brain to work together in English. That's not just practice. That's fluency in the making. Let me share a story. A listener named Laura, who lives in Vienna, wrote to me a few months ago. She had studied English for years. She understood movies, read books. But when it came to speaking, she froze. Until she started practicing self-talk. Every morning while getting ready for work, she'd speak out loud. I have a meeting at 10. I hope it goes well. I need to buy groceries. Simple. Just 5 minutes a day. And within weeks, Laura noticed a shift. She started thinking in English more. She felt less anxious at work meetings. She even started chatting with colleagues in English. Not perfectly, but confidently. She told me, I realized I don't need to be perfect. I just need to hear myself more in English. And that's it. That's the secret. Self-talk gives you control. You don't need Wi-Fi. You don't need a teacher. You just need you. Even if you only speak in your mind, it still counts. But if you can, say it out loud. Let your ears hear your voice. Let your thoughts take shape in English. That connection, it's what builds real fluency. And here's another benefit, motivation. Language learning can feel slow, like you're not making progress. But when you use self-talk, you set the rhythm. You don't compare yourself to anyone. You just practice, day by day, word by word. And that quiet progress, it's real. Now let me tell you about Tomas. He lives in Poland and works in IT. His schedule is packed. No time for classes, but he loves to cook. So I asked him, what if your kitchen became your classroom? At first, he laughed. It feels strange, he said, talking when no one's around. But I said, don't think of it as talking to no one. Just narrate what you're doing. Now I boil the water. I'm cutting the garlic. I need a sharp knife. No grammar drills, no perfection, just everyday English. And day by day, Thomas kept going. Soon his sentences grew longer. I love the smell of this. I think it needs more salt. I'll cook something different tomorrow. One night, he realized he'd cooked an entire meal speaking only English and hadn't even noticed. That's fluency in action. That's what happens when language becomes part of your routine. Over time, Thomas stopped translating in his head. He just spoke, naturally. And that confidence carried into his job. Meetings, interviews, small talk. He wasn't memorizing anymore. He was living in English. His advice? Use your routines. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just start. If you cook, talk while cooking. If you walk, describe what you see. If you clean, narrate what you're doing. You don't need fancy words. Just honest, simple language. And over time, the grammar improves, the vocabulary grows, and you become fluent through function, not perfection. So, if you've been wondering how to start speaking English alone, let me remind you, this isn't about performance. This isn't about perfect speeches. This is about you, your real life, your real voice, and your real growth. Think about your morning routine. What do you do in the first hour of your day? I'm getting up. I need a shower. Where are my socks? These sentences are gold. They train your brain to speak in the moment. That's real fluency. So here's your challenge. Right after this episode, take just 2 minutes. Talk to yourself in English. Out loud if you can. In your mind, if you must. Describe your room. Talk about your day. Say something. Because every sentence you speak is progress. Every word is practice. And you never know. That quiet conversation you have with yourself might just be the thing that changes everything. Now, here's something really important to remember. Keep it short and natural. Don't overthink the grammar. Don't try to sound like someone else. You're not giving a presentation. You're just living your life and narrating it in English. Even a sentence like, I don't want to get up yet, is valuable. It expresses emotion. It uses structure. But more importantly, it reflects you. The more your English practice is connected to your real, everyday routine, the easier it is to keep going. That's the magic of self-talk. It doesn't interrupt your day. It blends right into it. Start small. Just choose one moment in your day to speak aloud in English. Maybe when you're brushing your teeth. I brush my teeth. I need more toothpaste. This toothbrush is old. Or when you're getting dressed. I want to wear the blue shirt. It's cold today. I need a jacket. That's enough. 30 seconds of honest language is already a win. You've activated your brain. You've made English part of your life. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Let me tell you about Aisha. One day she sent me a message. She said, Julia, today I raised my hand in class. I asked a question. My heart was beating so fast, but I did it. That message made my day, because it wasn't just about asking a question. It was about breaking the silence. When I asked what helped her the most, she said something I'll never forget. I learned to speak like no one's listening, even if I'm the only one. That mindset changed everything for her. When you take the pressure off performing, your voice becomes free. When you stop focusing on being perfect, you become more natural. Aisha didn't start with public speaking. She built her voice in private, one quiet step at a time. Every morning she recorded herself. Every evening she listened. No grammar books, no apps, just her voice, her thoughts, and her intention to improve. She kept it short. She kept it personal. And because of that, she stayed consistent. And that consistency, that's what gave her strength. If you want to try what Aisha did, you can start tomorrow. Don't plan too much. Just pick up your phone and speak for 1 minute. Say what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you hope for the day. No need to sound good. No need to be formal. The goal isn't to impress. The goal is to let English live inside your day. Here's a routine you can follow. Start with a greeting. Good morning. Then say how you feel. I feel tired today. Add a goal. I want to speak more in class. End with a reflection. Maybe today will be better. That's it. 4 lines. Every day. This will train your brain to form complete English thoughts without stress. What's amazing about Aisha's journey is that she never forced herself to be confident. She created the conditions for confidence to grow. She stopped waiting. She stopped trying to sound fluent. She just spoke, even when her voice was shaky. And because she did it every day, her fear started to shrink. Little by little, her voice got stronger. 1 month after her first message, Aisha shared something else. Her professor asked a question during a group discussion. Nobody answered. And Aisha spoke, not perfectly, not loudly, but clearly. She used the same kind of sentences she'd practiced in her voice notes. Later, a classmate said, "You speak very naturally." That made her smile, because for so long, she felt like she didn't belong. But the truth is, she always belonged. She just needed space to find her voice, and self-talk gave her that space. So if you're listening right now and still stuck in silence, remember Aisha. She didn't start with confidence. She started with 30 seconds, a phone, and a whisper. She didn't try to sound like someone else. She sounded like herself. That's what made the difference. Now let me tell you about Naomi, a nurse from Tokyo. I once suggested she try speaking in front of a mirror. She looked at me like I was joking. You mean talk to myself? In the mirror? Yes, exactly. Because when you speak in front of a mirror, it feels real. You're not just saying words into the air, you're seeing yourself. You're making eye contact. You're watching your posture, your expression, the way your mouth moves. And over time, something powerful happens. You begin to believe in the voice you hear. Mirror practice doesn't just build vocabulary, it builds delivery. Because real communication is about more than words. It's tone, energy, confidence. And a mirror helps you see all of that. It reflects back your progress. And it reflects your doubts too. But if you keep showing up, even when it feels awkward, your doubt slowly turns into trust. Start small. Stand in front of the mirror and say, "Hi. Good morning." Hold your gaze. Notice your posture. Are your shoulders tense? Are you smiling? Then add another sentence. Today, I feel nervous. Today, I feel hopeful. Keep your body loose. Keep your voice calm. This isn't a performance. It's a connection. Over time, add more. I have a test later. I want to learn 5 new words. I feel unsure, but I'm trying. Watch how your face moves, how your voice sounds, and if you feel tension, pause. Breathe. Try again. Now, one of my favorite parts of mirror practice is affirmations, short, positive sentences that build your mindset. Say something like, "I believe in my progress," and look yourself in the eye when you say it. At first, It might feel strange, but this combination, language plus eye contact, creates real self-connection. You're not just learning English, you're building a relationship with yourself in English. Another student, Omar from Casablanca, had this challenge. He had great vocabulary and pronunciation, but he always spoke with his head down. He wasn't shy. It was just a habit. He was used to shrinking, to disappearing. I suggested mirror practice. He resisted. Then one day, he tried. 10 minutes every morning, he said, "I'm learning every day. I can do hard things. My voice matters." And everything changed. Not just his words, but his presence, his body, his confidence. He didn't just speak English, he owned his voice. Another student, Hannah from Berlin, could write and read English fluently, but speaking made her freeze. She said, "I don't like the way I sound. I feel like I'm not myself." I introduced her to mirror practice. She said, "I am still me. My voice in English is my voice too. It's okay to sound different." And slowly, she stopped separating herself from English. She embraced it. That's the secret of mirror practice. It helps you become yourself in another language. You don't have to become someone else. You don't have to fake confidence. You just need space to grow. And when you look yourself in the eye, you stop hiding. You begin to trust. Want to stay consistent? Use a calendar. Make a little check mark every day you speak. Or use a simple habit app. Watch that line of checks grow. You won't want to break the streak. That small visual? It keeps you going. Another great tip is to prepare a short list of phrases in advance. Sometimes we freeze because we don't know what to say. So, write a few lines ahead of time. Sticky notes, a notebook, a note on your phone. Simple things like, "I can handle this." "I'm learning something new today." "Let's stay calm, one step at a time." These are not only good English practices, they're also mentally supportive. They become part of your inner dialogue. One woman in our community, Priya from Bangalore, kept a card in her wallet with 5 short English phrases she loved. Every morning before leaving home, she read them out loud. It became her morning ritual. She told me, "It's like I'm setting the tone for the day in English." That's how you build a language habit that sticks. You make it meaningful. You make it visible. You make it part of your rhythm. So don't underestimate 5 minutes. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Choose a small anchor in your day and start from there. Let English weave into your daily life. Naturally, gently, consistently. That's where the real progress begins. Kenji's story is one I love sharing because it's a powerful reminder that even the smallest pockets of time can lead to major breakthroughs. He's from Tokyo, and like many professionals in big cities, he has a long, crowded commute every morning. He works for a fast-paced tech company, and his days are packed with meetings, deadlines, and constant activity. He told me once, "I don't have time to study English formally, but I do have time to ride the train." At first, that commute felt like lost time. 40 minutes on a packed train, standing most of the way, barely any space to breathe. But Kenji saw an opportunity. Instead of scrolling through news or zoning out, he started using those minutes for self-talk. He didn't speak loudly, of course. He was in public. But he found subtle ways to practice. Sometimes he would whisper softly, just enough for himself to hear. Other times he would mouth the words without making sound. And on some mornings, he would simply think in English, but in a structured way. He created little dialogues in his head. "Good morning. How are you today?" "I'm good. Thanks. I'm a little tired, but I'm ready for work. He imagined being in meetings, in cafes, in conversations. He asked himself questions like, "What are your goals today?" and answered them out loud. "I need to finish the report by noon. I want to speak more clearly in the team meeting." These weren't just random sentences. They were deeply connected to his real life. That made the practice more natural, more relevant. The first week was strange. Kenji told me he felt self-conscious, even though no one could hear him. He worried someone might notice, but he kept going, and something shifted. After a few days, he stopped caring what others thought. The train became his private classroom. No pressure, no teacher, no tests. Just him and his thoughts. In English. He kept a small notebook in his bag where he would jot down words or phrases he wanted to remember. Sometimes after the train ride, he'd look up a word he had struggled with. Or he'd write down a better way to say something he'd been trying to express. But the core of his practice remained verbal. Speaking, even softly, even silently, helped him process the language in a new way. One thing Kenji did that really inspired me was to use consistent themes. Each week he would pick a focus. One week he practiced describing his surroundings. "There's a man reading a newspaper. The woman next to me is wearing a green coat." Another week, he focused on feelings. "I'm nervous about the presentation." "I feel confident today." Then he'd try expressing more complex thoughts, like motivations or opinions. I think remote work is more productive. In my opinion, deadlines help me stay focused. By the third month, Kenji said he noticed a huge difference. Not in his grammar knowledge or vocabulary list, but in his readiness to speak. He told me, "Before, when someone asked me something in English, I would freeze. Now I already have the sentence forming in my head." That readiness is a result of practice, and not just reading or listening practice, but speaking, even if it's to yourself. The turning point came when he had to take a business trip to London. It was his first international meeting with clients, and he had been nervous for weeks. But when the moment came, at a cafe, speaking with a colleague from the UK, he didn't freeze. He just spoke. He said, "It felt like I was still on the train." All those imaginary conversations had trained his mouth and his mind. He had already lived those moments, even if only in his head. He told me later, "Those 5 minutes on the train each day became my secret practice ground. No one knew. No one heard. But those minutes changed everything for me." It's such a beautiful example of how powerful, quiet, consistent effort can be. What I also love about Kenji's method is how accessible it is. No special tools, no perfect environment. Just a bit of time and the decision to use it differently. The train, usually a place of silence or distraction, became a space of growth. And the best part? That habit stayed with him. Even after his English improved, even after the London trip, he kept talking to himself on the train. He even started challenging himself more. Some days, he would summarize a news story he had read. Other days, he would practice how to explain his job to someone unfamiliar with his field. He said, "If I can explain it in simple English, then I really understand it." That kind of reflection is incredibly powerful, not only for fluency, but for confidence. You learn to trust your voice. You stop fearing mistakes. You realize you can communicate, even if it's not perfect. Kenji also used repetition as a tool. If there was a phrase he wanted to master, he'd say it 10 times during the ride. Slowly at first, then faster, until it felt natural. For example, "Let me double check that for you." Or, "Could you explain that in more detail?" These are phrases he knew he'd need in meetings, so he made them automatic through repetition. He once shared a trick with me that I now pass on to others. He'd imagine different versions of the same situation. One day, he was the manager explaining a delay. The next day, he was the client asking questions. Then he was the new employee introducing himself. By changing roles, he stretched his vocabulary and improved his ability to think in real time. That kind of mental flexibility is what makes someone sound fluent, not memorizing long lists of words, but being able to adapt in the moment. Kenji's journey is proof that the most effective practice doesn't have to be loud, public, or formal. It can be quiet, personal, and even invisible to others. What matters is that it's consistent and meaningful. He used his environment, his imagination, and his motivation to build a habit that changed the way he speaks. So now, whenever someone tells me they don't have time, or they don't know where to start, I think of Kenji. I think of him standing on that train, whispering to himself, building a new voice sentence by sentence. It's not about the train. It's about the choice. The choice to use your time, your thoughts, your voice, even in small, quiet moments, to move forward. When you record your voice, you give yourself the opportunity to listen back, notice improvements, and identify areas that need a little more work. It's like having a personal coach available anytime. And the best part is, you get to hear how much you're improving over time. You don't have to start with long or complicated recordings. In fact, I recommend beginning with very short clips, even just 30 seconds each day. This can be as simple as talking about your morning routine, how you feel, or what you see around you. For example, you might say, "Today I woke up early. The sky is blue and the sun is shining. I am feeling happy and ready to learn." These short recordings don't need to be perfect or polished. The goal is to get your mouth moving and your brain practicing the sounds and rhythm of English regularly. Recording yourself helps you in many ways. First, it makes you more aware of your pronunciation. When you listen back, you might hear words that don't sound quite right, or sentences where you hesitate. This awareness is a gift, because it guides you on what to focus on next. Maybe you notice you say "see" sounds softly, or that your intonation sounds flat. Once you catch these small details, you can consciously practice them and improve little by little. Another benefit is that recording captures your sentence structure and grammar in real time. You'll notice if you tend to pause too much or repeat the same phrases. Sometimes we speak in ways that are comfortable but not quite natural in English, and recording helps us catch these habits. It's like holding up a mirror to your speaking skills, and as you continue practicing and recording, you'll hear your sentences becoming smoother, your vocabulary expanding, and your flow improving. You might be surprised how quickly these changes happen once you're paying attention. One of my favorite parts about recording yourself is the motivation it creates. Progress in language learning can sometimes feel slow, and it's easy to get discouraged. But when you have a collection of recordings, you can go back a few weeks or months and listen to your earlier attempts. That moment, when you hear yourself struggling with words you now say easily, is a powerful reminder that you are improving. It keeps you motivated to keep going because you have real proof of your growth. Some people get nervous about sharing their recordings with others, but for now, I suggest keeping them private. These recordings are just for you. A safe space to experiment, make mistakes, and grow. You can even delete the ones you don't like. The important thing is to build the habit of speaking regularly and listening to yourself without judgment. Over time, you may feel more comfortable sharing some of your recordings with friends, teachers, or language partners, but that comes naturally when you're ready. If you want to make the recording habit even more effective, try mixing it up. One day, record yourself describing your surroundings in simple sentences. Another day, talk about your feelings or plans. You could also narrate a short story from your own life or summarize a movie or book you enjoyed. Changing topics keeps things interesting and helps you practice different vocabulary and sentence structures. Variety makes learning fun and keeps your brain engaged. Technology makes this practice super easy. Almost every smartphone has a built-in voice recorder app. Some apps even allow you to listen and compare multiple recordings side by side. You can use these tools anytime and anywhere, during your commute, while waiting in line, or even before going to bed. Consistency is more important than duration. So, even a quick daily check-in with your voice can make a big difference over weeks and months. As you record yourself regularly, you'll also notice your speaking speed change. At first, you might talk slowly because you're focusing on accuracy and choosing the right words. That's perfectly normal and expected. But as you get more comfortable, your speech will naturally become faster and more fluent. You'll start to sound more like a natural English speaker with the right rhythm and flow. Hearing this progress on your recordings is incredibly rewarding and encouraging. Another subtle but important effect of recording yourself is that it strengthens your memory. When you say words and sentences aloud and then listen to yourself, you're reinforcing what you've learned in two ways: speaking and hearing. This double exposure helps new vocabulary and phrases stick better in your mind. It's like reviewing your learning in real time, which is much more effective than just reading or listening passively. You may also find that recording helps reduce anxiety about speaking in front of others. When you practice talking alone and hear yourself, you become more familiar with your own voice speaking English. This builds confidence because you realize you can express your thoughts clearly. Then, when you have to speak with real people, you're less likely to freeze or stumble. The more you practice with recordings, the easier it becomes to speak spontaneously. Remember, the goal of recording is not to create a perfect podcast or a polished performance. The goal is to give yourself space to speak, experiment, and listen with kindness. Celebrate your effort and your willingness to practice regularly. This positive mindset makes all the difference in your progress. If you haven't tried this yet, I encourage you to start today. Set a small goal like recording one short clip about your day, your feelings, or your plans. Listen to it, notice what you like and what you want to improve. Then keep going. Over time, this simple habit will build your fluency, your confidence, and your connection to the English language in ways that study alone can't achieve. So grab your phone or your computer, press record, and give yourself permission to speak English out loud. You are your best teacher and your strongest supporter. Every recording is a step forward, and I'm excited for you to hear your own progress. Thanks for listening to English Without Limit. I'm Julia. See you next time.